we're going to talk about the superpower of invisibility. Specifically, we're going to talk about the history and science of invisible ink. So when you hear invisible ink, you probably think of spies in the Cold War, the FBI, CIA, and the DMV. But you might be surprised that invisible ink goes all the way back to the Greeks and Romans. In fact, the first person we know to use invisible ink was Pliny the Elder. He said that he used the milk of a plant. But not just any plant. The plant that he used was Tivimealis. Not too long after Pliny, an Italian scientist came up with his own invisible ink. First, he would take a hard-boiled egg, and then he would write on it with his invisible ink. The invisible ink would then seep through the shell, and then only 2 people would be able to read it. Whoever peeled the egg, or the Easter Bunny. So invisible ink has been used throughout history in almost every war, so spies could send secret messages to each other. During the Revolutionary War, George Washington was a big believer in the use of invisible ink. He would write long and boring letters to his commanders. And on the same piece of paper, he would write secret messages using invisible ink. So how does invisible ink work? Interestingly, the methods of invisible ink hasn't changed all that much since Pliny the Elder. So basically, you have Agent 1, that is your invisible ink, and you apply that to some kind of paper. And then you have Agent 2 that you apply to Agent 1 that makes Agent 1 visible. So Agent 1 is usually some kind of chemical, and Agent 2 can also be a chemical, but it's also sometimes heat. But now, in modern times, we can make things that were invisible, visible, with different wavelengths of light. So let's look at 2 examples. One uses chemistry, and the other uses light. So this is our invisible ink agent, which is baking soda and water mixed together that makes an acidic liquid. So this is our revealing agent, which is made out of rubbing alcohol and turmeric. The rubbing alcohol will bring out the acidic baking soda, and the turmeric will dye the baking soda, so we can read it clearly. Earlier, I wrote on this piece of paper a secret message using the water and baking soda mixture. Let's use the rubbing alcohol and turmeric to reveal the secret message. So this was a demonstration of invisible ink using a chemical reaction. Now let's use one using different wavelengths of light. So this invisible ink pen is using a light fluorescent ink chemical to write with. So let's draw something and see what it looks like when we look at it with a different kind of light. So, under white light, it's hard to tell if there's anything on the paper or not. But when we use black light, it appears. So there's a little bit of history and science behind invisible ink. And if you want to mix up a batch of your own invisible ink, there's all kinds of recipes on Google and YouTube. Just look some up with your friends, experiment, and have fun.